It's what I think worked so effectively in Bolivia when their democracy was threatened by that coup in terms of bringing it back. And that is such a big thing to have. And that is why, I don't know if you heard this before we came on, my big thing was the PRO Act. Like if you know what that is, it's a pro-union, it's like supporting the right to organize, all that stuff, all across the country, which has been so systematically destroyed, especially over the last 10 years. And that will help lay the groundwork for massive power structures to support and back up people like AOC and Eleanor, who, despite what people like Jimmy Dore may want to hint at for their $2 million houses, their YouTube clicks, and all that stuff, like David Sordo was saying, they actually do want to pass this stuff. Yes, I totally agree there, James. All right, let's get back to it.
But right now, 15 million people just lost their health care. 19 million people on the verge of eviction, and we need a bold move. Now, until we brought...
And he's literally saying, he is saying that you should go bolder than you already are right now. Like, that makes no sense.
This up, they were going to do anything. They were doing anything. And in fact, their first... when
Yes. Yeah, like of course that's the role of the people, but the people have to be smart in what they're saying here.
When AOC
and unified,
the only one who's addressed this, by the way, publicly, when she first started addressing it, she was gaslighting. She was saying, "Well, we can't do it. We have to wait," even though she ran on it.
I think this guy, like he went a little bit wild with the gaslighting. He put too much gaslighting in the stew here. It's like he's too much of an ingredient. He found out a word and he's like using it so much he's like having fun with a new toy almost. It's like AOC is like gaslighting. Like, shut up. Like, that is just such a gross misinterpretation, misuse of a term there, and it's just absolutely a completely just like useless, like personal, like that's the type of animus that really people like Jimmy Dore thrive on, because they drive in right wingers to be like, oh, AOC sucks, and then he's like, oh, AOC sucks. But like, if you really want to hitch all your wagons to electoral politics, then she's like the best you got. Her, Ilhan Omar, people like Cori Bush, they're the best you got. That's it. And it's pretty damn hard to do change in Washington when you're like 5 or 6 or 8 against the world there. Like, and especially if you have your own people not supporting you. The people who are supposed to be in your corner, who are just completely backing off on you. And you could push them, you could criticize them, but for like, that's crossing a line. That is completely, oh, she's gaslighting me. Oh, wow. Like, really? It'll be a little more mature than that.
She ran on, all it takes is courage. We don't have to wait 100 years. We got to do it now. And then she's gaslighted about why we can't do it and we can't extract anything. And then she changed her tune and said, oh, no, we're actually doing things in secret. And it just all didn't, none of it passes the smell test. And what this seems, so what an article like this, what I fear is that it's running interference for them. It's like, now it muddies the waters. It's like, oh, they don't have to do this vote. We can do this other thing. We're going to look at this committee guy and we're going to do that. We're going to get a procedural thing. And so I understand. So that's why this is tough for me, because I agree with what you're right about that. You're right about.
No, but I would flip it around. I would say that I think actually a Medicare for All floor vote right now is actually running interference. I'm not saying you're deliberately running interference.
Right.
I'm saying it makes it easier for them to actually not do the things that are real. Another idea for something that's real.
Yes.
They could start circulating a letter right now among all of their colleagues, asking them to sign on a letter to Joe Biden, telling him to use his existing authority that is already on the books when he becomes president to expand Medicare to cover millions of people right now. People don't know a lot about this.
It's stupid. Like, that's like one step up from what Dore is saying, but like that would actually probably do more.
Books right now, there is a law that allows a president to essentially expand Medicare during a major healthcare or environmental emergency. Now, there's some questions about the legality of this and the like, for sure, but those legislators in Congress could circulate a letter to their fellow colleagues saying, we're sending this letter to Joe Biden demanding he use this authority right now, not tomorrow, not a week from now, not a month from now, right now. And making the letter public would then encourage the public to contact their member of Congress to tell them to sign on. And if they don't sign on, they're telling us where they are. Now, that's something that's real. That's something that's not just a floor vote. That's something that somebody literally with the stroke of the pen, Joe Biden, could actually expand Medicare in a real way.
Okay, I agree with, again, it's tough because you're right. I mean, what that Intercept secret recording just revealed is that Joe Biden is not going to lift his finger in an executive order to help anybody, even when he's being overwhelmingly pressured by his base. So,
right, so if I'm Nancy Pelosi and I hear you and others, and again, I'm not criticizing you for raising this. The point that you've raised is they should do something. Right? I mean, that's a radical idea that the Democrats who have some power should actually do a thing. Is like people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're suggesting that the Democrats should actually do something. I mean, that's very good that that's now in the conversation. My point is, if I felt pressure to do something now because of this, and I was in Congress and I wanted to brush everybody off, I'd be like, sure, let's have a floor vote. It'll be sort of a joke. We know what's going to happen, and goodbye. I did what you wanted me to do, and see you later. Instead of having to deal with something that's like, oh, I actually have to do something that's like I really don't want to do, and is something that's actually like real and might have real opposition and could put me in a really, really difficult place. I mean, we saw a while ago, I forget what year it was, where Mitch McConnell brought Medicare for All to the floor for that sort of vote, and the Democrats kind of rolled their eyes and laughed at it, and it was kind of brushed off as a ridiculous stunt. I want these people to have to do something and have to answer to something that really puts them on the spot, and to do something that they don't want to do that could actually help.
That woman in the background just going, right, is like Jimmy Dore's partner, and just like, yeah, that's right. Like, you can't deny it. I'm sure Jimmy Dore would say, yeah, like, that's the right course of action. And, like, it really, I think, speaks quite badly, I'm going to say, of Mr. Dore in this situation. That he's really trying to make a bunch of BS hay off of a situation where we have, and I do want to hear, I want to hear some other people on it. Let's get a take, because if it'd be interesting to see how like secular talk would say about this. Force a vote on Medicare for All. Jimmy Dore and
so Jimmy
Justin
Dore
Jackson
has been advocating
AOC. So
for the idea.
Let's see if we can skip ahead here to the appropriate. All right, We'll find a random spot and play it, because you don't want to see people like Justin Jackson, because we kind of know where Jimmy Dore and David Sirota are at. Like, that is the right way to do it. Like, you got to do it in a smarter way. And yeah, so let's take a look at their attack on it and see if Kyle is going to take that same approach and not even address it.
Way to her right. So in that situation, who are you going to pick to be leader of the Democrats? And it really is the oldest establishment trick in the book. You give somebody all terrible options, and then you pick the best among the terrible options, and you pretend like it's some sort of victory for the left. And again, it's a trick. It's a trick. And, I fell for it just like everybody else. I mean, I was thinking, well, if those are the only options and she's the furthest left option, I guess, right? But no, see, now
he's talking about the Nancy Pelosi speaker vote
since
here.
The last time they tried this trick on us. And you didn't organize to come up with a better option? Honestly, that's a giant failure of the left. You have to organize. We can't just always accept a terrible option among all bad options and then pretend like it's some sort of victory. Now, what happened last time is the more conservative Democrats
it's a weird
played hardball
use
with
of the word
Pelosi,
organizing,
and she conceded to them because they played hardball with her. So what Jimmy's doing is he's advocating that the Justice Democrats and really the Congressional Progressive Caucus, or a large chunk of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, withhold your votes. I think all you need is anywhere from 8 to 15 votes of the leftist Congress people. If they withhold their votes and they say, listen, we'll vote for you, but you have to have Medicare for All for a floor vote. If they do that, then we'll get a floor vote on Medicare for All. That's what'll happen. You could try to pass the buck and say, oh, well, then she won't do that, and then somebody to her right will be elected. Well, what does it matter if somebody to her right is elected if she's not going to allow the floor vote on Medicare for All, and the person to her right isn't going to allow the floor vote on Medicare for All? Then, it's the same thing either way. So who cares if it's Pelosi or not in that situation? And you don't have to pass the buck. The onus is on her. So in other words, yeah, she can be speaker, but, you're just going to have to allow a floor vote on Medicare for All. This is how you play politics. You organize, you strategize. This is what you do. So Jimmy's been pushing this idea. And listen, this wasn't even really a controversial idea, so much so that Sam Cedar, who despises Jimmy Dore, even Sam Cedar did a segment a week or so ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, and he was like, I think Jimmy got this one right. I think that this is what the leftist Congress people should do. Yeah, demand something for your vote. Duh. Like, this is politics. This is politics 101. So Jimmy's been making these criticisms. Now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has not responded to Jimmy.
And she did, at this point, this is a little bit of an old video, she did respond to Justin Jackson, the football player involved in this. And all right, let's go. So this is what she said. It's kind of a malpractice that I even said this. Yes. So Justin Jackson, the exchange here goes, if AOC and the squad don't do what Jimmy Dore has suggested and withheld their vote for Pelosi for speakership unless Medicare for All gets brought to the floor for a vote, they will be revealing themselves. Power concedes nothing without demand, which is very, very true. Good point. But we know that the big take here, my personal opinion, I think what we got is got to take a little different strategy. Leveraging for the vote, attaching leverage to the vote is a very, very important thing. So I think it's actually going to be pretty important here to see actually what AOC thinks, because she's going to be one of the people who's actually representing us as a hope of the progressive movement here in Congress. So problem with this idea is there isn't enough isn't enough thought given to step 2. Withhold their vote for Pelosi unless Medicare for All gets brought to a floor vote. So referring to Medicare for All being brought to a floor vote, the Dems' votes aren't there yet, and with a razor-thin margin, the Dem no's are greater than our margin. So you issue threats, hold your vote, and lose. Then what? If you want to know who's opposed, look at the co-sponsor list. So Owen Higgins responds here in a pretty respectful way. So, but before we get to, I just want to dig a little more what she's saying here. So the problem with this idea is there isn't enough thought given to step 2, which is the Medicare for All getting brought to the floor. Dem votes aren't there yet. Is she talking about for the speakership vote or for the Medicare for All vote? Razor thin margin, Dem knows. Okay, I think she's talking about the Medicare for All vote. Hold your vote, then you lose. Then what? Yeah, okay. She's not talking about the speakership vote. Okay, just want to be pretty sure on that. So Higgins says, Owen Higgins, great reporter, who is on Substack, I believe now. Not sure this tracks. Assume that Democrats relent and allow a vote on one of the most popular policies in American politics. Put them up to having to say no. Will they? We can't imagine the political pressure that will come if it's on the table. And I mean, how is that political pressure going to come? From what vehicle? And how is it going to be broadly effective? How is it going to mobilize a lot of different Americans? You can't just have people who follow Owen Higgins on Twitter. You can't just have people who have my type of politics coming out there and doing that. You have the people from All Swaths of Life. You got to have a huge coalition. The political pressure has to be really intense for something like this to happen, and for Medicare for All actually to pass in a vote like this. And he says, does this mean taking the approach that J-Man Prime 21 is advocating? Not necessarily. This is Justin Jackson, but the narrow margin is not convincing when a massive majority of GOP voters, to say nothing of independents and Dems, support the policy. And again, it's voters and representatives is different. I think the question is different between holding the vote versus threatening Dem control to hold the vote. Not opposed to floor vote, but leverage argument is, do you use leverage to secure an immediate $15 minimum wage, which, I don't know, Joe Biden probably would do that anyway. Elevate good people to key spots for 2 years, or hold one vote we don't have votes for. Let's see what people say to that. I want to scroll through here. Yeah, okay, so it already passed the House in 2019. So it's not a very controversial thing. I don't think that's necessarily a very good demand there. You got to like do something that actually pushes the envelope. Pelosi would be like, 15-minute wage, certainly. But it'd be interesting actually